Here to encourage, offer small business insight, and connect you to your maker community. Whether you're working in your studio space or out sharing your story at a farmer's market, welcome. We are John and Sarah Collins, and this is the Modern Forestry Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is John Collins from Modern Forestry. I want to talk about mindsets that will help you in small business and in life. Number one, do not look at the competition. During the Olympics, which was happening in Rio, there were two swimmers, Michael Phelps, and then another dude with blonde hair. So they're swimming. There's this famous photo of Michael Phelps coming in, going as hard as he can, swimming his race, staying in his lane. Right beside him is the second fastest swimmer, looking over at Michael Phelps. So, if your mindset is other people can do this better than I can, and I'm just not going to be able to do it, look at all this other stuff they have, you're not focusing on your race. So instead, focus on your race. Swim the fastest that you can in what you are doing. This is true in small business and personally. Think about Instagram. As you scroll and find people that are better than you, the emotion that's produced is jealousy. And this doesn't help you in your journey to become a better person or a better business. These instruments help me to know that when I play, I'm not going to be the best, but I'm really going to enjoy playing. Same is true in small business. You can engage in a small business in a way that accomplishes your goals that you have for yourself and your family. You can do that. But if your focus is how well other people are doing compared to you, you're really not going to succeed very well. You should only be comparing to who you yourself was the day before, who you were yesterday. If you're doing better than yesterday, then you're doing all right. Now, the second principle, I'm on number 2. The second principle is have a positive view of the future. It's amazing when you read the news how everything looks like, future's not so good. You better get preparing. I hate that. I hate that. In my heart, I hate that. That gets me really upset. Why do we have a negative view of the future when at so many other points in history we've had such positive views of the future, especially in America? And it's not like those views of the future were during a time when everything was going well. They were during times of great difficulty, the Great Depression, the 70s fuel crisis, war across the world, etc. Tough times, these difficult times were happening. And yet, in today's culture, it seems as if the idea that the future could be a good thing is getting more and more a scarce thought. This country has had so many wonderful plans and futures. Science fiction, for instance. I grew up on science fiction. It was all about let's look to the future and let's try to make ourselves better and advance in technologies that support humanity and that supports individuals and that supports families. And this was something that I was really enjoying and glad I grew up with, because today it helps me with my own personal mindset. Is this year going to be successful for me and my company and my family? I, in part, have a responsibility to decide that it will be. Okay, it doesn't mean that everything is going to be rosy, but if I cut myself off at that point of like, it's going to be rough, better prepare yourselves to be rough, this is going to be awful. If that's your mindset going into anything, then that's a really easy goal to achieve. It's going to be rough. It's not going to be good. It's like, okay, well, you didn't set yourself for success at all. You're like, see, I told you. It's like the most you can be with a negative attitude is right about the things that you wish didn't happen in life. That's the most that you could be with a negative attitude. So have a positive attitude. Have a really good attitude. Have a positive view of the future. Close your eyes and imagine where you would like to be in the future. And I'm not saying that it's going to happen, but it's certainly not going to happen if you plan for your future to be a failure. You can have the same mindset and mentality, which just says, regardless of what the current situation looks like, it's going to get better. It doesn't mean it will, but prepare yourself for it to get better. So if you prepare yourself for it to get better, when things come your way and you see, okay, well, we could get out of this if we do this and then this and then this, You're more prepared for thinking through that versus, oh no, that won't help, or that won't help, or that won't help. Have a positive view of the future. Now, the third thing I want to talk about is a very practical thing that I use at events every single weekend. And this is to not complain, okay? And the opposite of complaining would be to be grateful. So if you can be grateful every day and thank the people around you for what they do for you, because let's be honest, we can't exist by ourselves. We have to have the help of other people. If you are grateful for those around you and you express that, it's going to set you up so much more for success. Let me give you a great example. Okay. So when we do events, oftentimes they're outdoors. Okay. And the elements are not kind sometimes. Sometimes it's super windy and it'll flip every tent. Sometimes it's super hot and you just don't have enough water. Sometimes it's super wet and rainy and all your products getting destroyed. Okay. And sometimes the event is organized improperly and it just stinks and there's no one there and you paid more money to be there not selling stuff than you could have saved just by staying home. Okay, that's a possibility. These are real examples of stuff that's happened to me. So I have the choice whenever anything negative happens to try to figure out what I want to do. And I actually get a little bit encouraged when things get difficult because then I go, okay, here's an opportunity for me to step forward. Now, stepping forward is a term that I use in terms of selling at a booth. You have your tables typically separating you from the customer with your product in between the two of you, and you're there to assist and to help tell people about your product. So I will step forward right up to the table whenever there's no one there. Okay. Most of the people who you will see succeeding at events are stepping forward consistently. Even if it's a 12-hour selling day, they are standing up at the edge of the table, ready to serve the customer and help lead them in the experience of getting to know the product that's in front of them. So stepping forward helps you so much because imagine having a mentality where you're sitting back in your chair or you're stepping forward ready to complain. So if you're stepping forward ready to complain, you're really just like, geez, man, this is terrible. This is an awful event. You're constantly thinking about yourself, but thinking about yourself doesn't sell well. Thinking about other people is what helps to sell. Serving other people, trying to think about them. If you greet somebody and you show that this is the 8th hour that you've said, hey, how are you doing? Then that customer will experience that and go, well, that guy seems to be tired. That's not what you want. You want that customer to be pleasantly surprised with how you greet them when they walk by the booth. Now, this is the same as true as in life, okay? So if you're interacting with people throughout your life and you're having a bad day and you want everybody to know that you're having a bad day, by the end of the day, you might feel a little bit better about having shared how terrible of a day that you had. That'll be like salt water. It's just not going to help. You can do that, but it's just not going to help. If you want to see a positive day happen when you're having a negative day, have a positive influence on every single person that you come into contact with that day. Ask them how they're doing. One of the things a friend of mine always would tell me is have the mindset that everyone else is fighting a harder battle than you are. If that is your mindset going into your day, then even the people who look like they have it all together, you can greet them and say, how are you truly? And you'd be surprised at the response. So those are 3 things that are very helpful to have in life. You want to not look at the competition, and you do so by staying in your lane. You want to have a positive view of the future. And then you also do not want to complain. You want to be positive. So what I would say is that go out there in your life and do what you need to do to be a better you than you were yesterday, and do so by focusing on your lane, having a positive view of who you'll become in the future, and then also avoid complaining. It's really not helpful. We're grateful for the hustle here at Modern Forestry. Thank you so much for your time and listening to this podcast.
If you'd like to support, one surprising thing that you can do is review the podcast. It helps more than you would think in iTunes, and it's very easy to do. Head over to iTunes, go to Modern Forestry Podcast, and drop a review. You can also do it on your podcast app if you're using an Apple device. Thanks so much for listening. We're grateful for the hustle.